On a warm summer day, the sun shone brightly over a meadow filled with blooming flowers and tall green grass. The air was filled with the sound of buzzing bees and the sweet smell of wildflowers. In the middle of this bustling meadow, a happy-go-lucky grasshopper was singing and playing his fiddle, hopping from one flower to the next without a care in the world. Not far from where the grasshopper was playing, a busy ant was hard at work. The ant was carrying tiny grains of wheat back to her nest, one by one. She moved with purpose, her tiny legs working tirelessly as she prepared for the winter that would surely come. While the grasshopper played his fiddle and laughed, the ant never stopped, determined to store enough food to last through the cold months. As the ant scurried past, the grasshopper called out to her, "Why are you working so hard on such a beautiful day? Come join me. There's plenty of time to gather food later. Let's sing and dance together." The ant paused for a moment and looked at the carefree grasshopper. "I'd love to," she said kindly, "but winter will be here before we know it. If I don't work now, I won't have enough food to survive. You should prepare too." But the grasshopper just laughed and continued to play his fiddle. Day after day, the ant continued to work tirelessly, gathering food and storing it in her nest. Meanwhile, the grasshopper played and sang, enjoying the warm sun and the endless summer days. But as the weeks passed, the leaves on the trees began to change colour, turning from green to shades of red, orange and yellow. The days grew shorter, and a chill began to fill the air. Autumn had arrived, and winter was not far behind. Before long, the first snowflakes began to fall. The once lively meadow was now quiet and covered in a blanket of white. The grasshopper, who had played all summer and fall, was now cold and hungry. He had no food and nowhere to go. Shivering, he wandered through the snow-covered meadow, looking for something to eat, but the ground was frozen, and there was nothing to be found. As the grasshopper wandered through the snow, he came across the ant's nest. From inside, he could hear the crackling of a warm fire, and the sound of the ant humming a tune. The grasshopper knocked on the door, his body trembling from the cold. When the ant opened the door, she was surprised to see the grasshopper standing there. "Please, ant, I'm so cold and hungry. Can you spare some food and shelter?" the grasshopper pleaded. The ant looked at the grasshopper with a mix of sympathy and disappointment. "Grasshopper," she said gently, "I worked hard all summer to prepare for winter. I told you that winter would come, but you chose to play instead of preparing. It's not fair for you to ask me to share what I worked so hard for." The grasshopper hung his head in shame, realizing his mistake. He had wasted the summer and now had nothing to show for it. But the ant was not without compassion. After a moment of thought, she sighed and said, "You can stay with me for the winter, grasshopper, but next year you must work hard and prepare for the cold months, just as I did." The grasshopper's eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, ant, I promise I will work hard next year," he said earnestly. And so the ant shared her food and shelter with the grasshopper, and together they spent the winter warm and safe. And so the grasshopper learned a valuable lesson that winter. When the spring came, he didn't waste any time. He started gathering food right away, working side by side with the ant. From that day on, the grasshopper never forgot the importance of preparing for the future. After all, hard work and planning are the keys to surviving even the coldest of winters. From that day forward, the grasshopper found a new joy in his life. He still loved to play his fiddle and sing, but now he understood that there was a time for work and a time for play. And by balancing both, he could enjoy the best of every season.
If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you'll never miss a new story.